The auction block was cold beneath Thandi's bare feet. She stood under spotlight so bright she couldn't see the men bidding on her, could only hear their voices, English, Russian, Mandarin, languages she didn't recognize. The numbers climbed, 50,000, 100,000. She'd stopped listening somewhere around 500,000, stopped trying to understand how her father's gambling debt became this. Her in a designer dress she didn't choose, in a warehouse that smelled like cigar smoke and desperation, being sold like property. Her hands shook. She clenched them into fists, nails biting into her palms. The pain helped, kept her present, kept her from screaming or collapsing or doing something that might make this worse, though she wasn't sure what could be worse than standing on a platform while strange men decided what she was worth. 2 million. The room went silent. That voice cut through the chaos. American accent, but something else underneath. Sharp. Controlled. Dangerous. The kind of voice that didn't need to be loud to command attention. Thandi squinted past the lights towards the back of the room. A figure stood in shadow, hands in his pockets like he was browsing art at a gallery, not buying a human being. The auctioneer, a thin man with a pencil mustache who'd been treating this whole thing like a normal business transaction, cleared his throat. $2 million. Going once, going twice. No one else bid. Of course they didn't. 2 million was insane. Sold. Thandi's legs gave out. One of the guards caught her elbow, kept her upright. She forgot how to breathe. Somewhere in the crowd, someone laughed. The sound was swallowed by the general murmur of conversation as people began to leave. The auction apparently over now that the main attraction had been purchased. They escorted her off the platform. Her legs moved automatically, muscle memory taking over while her brain shut down. In the back room, a dingy office with water-stained ceiling tiles and a metal desk, he was signing paperwork with the casual ease of someone who did this regularly. The auctioneer counted cash, rubber-banding stacks of $100 bills like he was working at a bank. Thandi stood there, wrapped in someone's suit jacket one of the guards had thrown over her shoulders when she started shivering, and tried to process what just happened. Someone bought her. Someone paid $2 million for her. When the paperwork was done, the man who purchased her finally looked up. She saw his face clearly for the first time. Korean, maybe early 30s. Beautiful in the way sharp objects are beautiful. All clean lines and dangerous edges. Perfect black suit that probably cost more than her father's house. Sharp jaw. Cold eyes that studied her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. His hair was styled back, not a strand out of place. He didn't look like the other men who'd been bidding. They'd looked hungry, predatory, like they were imagining what they'd do with their purchase. He looked calculating, like he was solving an equation. "Do you remember me?" he asked in English. Thandi stared at him. Her voice came out rough, barely above a whisper. "What?" His lips curved into something that might be a smile if smiles were supposed to make you feel like you were standing on the edge of a cliff. "You will." He turned to one of his men, Asian, built like a fighter, wearing a suit that matched his boss's. "Take her to the car. Carefully." And somehow, that was more terrifying than anything else that night. The implication that she could be handled another way, that carefully was a choice he was making, not a given. The man, his subordinate, Thandi guessed, nodded. "Yes, sir." As she was led out to a black SUV with tinted windows, she caught one last glimpse of her buyer. He was watching her with those cold, analytical eyes, and she couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't seeing her at all. He was seeing something else, someone he remembered. The drive was silent. Thandi sat in the back seat, 2 men in the front. The one who wasn't driving, occasionally glancing at her in the rearview mirror. She pulled the suit jacket tighter around herself and stared out the window at New York passing by. They were headed uptown, away from the warehouse district, away from the graffiti and abandoned buildings, toward the kind of neighborhoods where people like her didn't belong unless they were cleaning someone's house. Her phone was gone, taken when they'd grabbed her from her apartment 3 days ago. 3 days that felt like 3 years. 3 days of being moved from location to location, of being told her father owed money to dangerous people, of being measured and dressed and prepped like she was a doll being prepared for sale, which, she guessed, she was. She thought about her siblings, Sifo and Naledi, 16 and 19, back in Johannesburg with her grandmother in Soweto, believing she was in New York living her dream life, believing the money she sent home every month came from her job as an assistant art curator at a tiny gallery in Soho. They didn't know about the second job, bartending, the third job, doing freelance graphic design, the fact that she could barely afford rent in a studio apartment with 3 other girls, that she ate ramen most nights, that the work trip she'd told them she was going on was a lie to explain why she'd missed their weekly video call. They definitely didn't know their father had gambled away money he didn't have and that she'd just paid his debt with her freedom. Gyaksolisa, she thought. I'm sorry. But she didn't know who she was apologizing to. Them, herself, her mother, who died when she was 14 and left her to raise her children. The SUV pulled up to a mansion, not a house, a mansion. Iron gates that slid open automatically, a circular driveway with a fountain, stone facade that probably cost more than she'd earn. In her entire life, security cameras visible on every corner, men in suits standing at attention near the entrance. This wasn't just wealth, this was power. Out, the driver said, not unkind, but not warm either. Thandi climbed out on shaking legs. The front door opened before they reached it, and a woman in her 50s, Korean, wearing a simple black dress, nodded at the men accompanying her. Mr. Kim will see her tomorrow, the woman said in accented English. Tonight, she rests, 4th floor, East Wing. Mr. Kim. So that was his name. The woman led Thandi inside, through a foyer with marble floors and a chandelier that looked like it belonged in a museum, up a sweeping staircase, down a hallway lined with art, actual art, the kind she'd studied in school, the kind that made her curator brain automatically start cataloguing, and finally to a door. She opened it and stepped aside. Thandi walked in and stopped. It wasn't a cell. It wasn't even a bedroom. It was a suite. King-sized bed with silk sheets, sitting area with a couch and fireplace, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, an ensuite bathroom visible through an open door, all marble and gold fixtures. You'll find clothes in the closet, the woman said. Your size. Meals will be brought at 7, noon, and 6. Do you have dietary restrictions? Thandi blinked at her. What? Allergies, foods you don't eat. No allergies, she nodded. The door is not locked, but there are guards in the hallway, for your safety. The way she said it made it clear. Guards to keep Thandi in, not to keep danger out. Mr. Kim will send for you tomorrow. Rest. She left, closing the door softly behind her. Thandi stood in the middle of this ridiculously luxurious room and tried to make sense of what was happening. She'd been sold at auction, bought for $2 million. And now she was in what looked like a 5-star hotel room, being told to rest. This didn't make sense. She checked the door. The woman hadn't been lying. It was unlocked. But when she peeked into the hallway, 2 men in suits stood on either side of the door. They didn't look at her, but their presence was message enough. Thandi closed the door and leaned against it, sliding down to sit on the floor. Her hands were shaking again. She pressed them against her face, felt the heat of her own skin, the dampness of tears she didn't realize she was crying. Sawubona, Mama. She thought, I see you, I need you. But her mother had been gone for 13 years, and Thandi had been handling things on her own ever since. She forced herself to stand, to breathe, to think. Tomorrow, Mr. Kim would send for her. Tomorrow, she'd find out what he wanted. What $2 million bought him. Tonight, she needed to figure out how to survive this. She crossed to the closet, pulled it open. The woman hadn't been exaggerating. It was full of clothes, all her size, designer labels she recognized from window shopping she could never afford. Dresses, jeans, blouses, pajamas, even underwear, still in packages, exactly her size. How did he know? She grabbed a set of pajamas, silk, cream-coloured, softer than anything she'd ever worn, and changed in the bathroom. The mirror showed her what she already knew. She looked like hell. Dark circles under her eyes, hair that needed washing. The remnants of makeup someone had applied for the auction, now smudged and wrong. She washed her face, used the toothbrush she found still in its package. Again, how did he know? And climbed into the massive bed. The sheets smelled like lavender and something else, something expensive. She didn't expect to sleep, but exhaustion was stronger than fear, and within minutes she was drifting off. Her last thought before unconsciousness took her, "Do you remember me?" And the terrifying part was, somewhere deep in her mind, something stirred, a memory trying to surface, a feeling that she should know who he was, but she didn't. Did she? Thandi woke to sunlight streaming through windows she'd forgotten to cover. For a moment, she was disoriented. This wasn't her apartment, wasn't her cramped corner with the mattress on the floor, wasn't anywhere she recognized. Then she remembered. The auction. Mr. Kim. This mansion prison. She sat up, and that's when she saw it. On the bedside table, a photograph in a simple silver frame. She picked it up with shaking hands. It was old, printed on actual photo paper, edges slightly yellowed. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, grinning at the camera with gap-toothed joy, dark skin, hair in braids with colourful beads, wearing a school uniform, the one from St. Mary's Primary in Cape Town. She realised with a jolt. That was her. Standing next to her in the photo was a Korean boy about the same age, skinny and serious, looking at the camera like it might attack him. His hand was barely touching her shoulder, like he wasn't quite sure he was allowed. Thandi stared at the photo. Her heart was hammering. Cape Town. They'd lived there when she was 7 to 10, after her father's business deal fell through in Johannesburg and he thought he could start over. They'd had a small house in a modest neighbourhood, and next door had lived a Korean family. The memory hit her all at once. A boy named Min Jun. His mother used to make kimchi that smelled up the whole block. His father was never home, always on business trips. Min Jun didn't speak much English when they first moved in, and the other kids made fun of him. She'd defended him, taught him English curse words first because she thought it was funny, shared her mother's vetkoik when she made them, let him follow her around like a puppy. He'd been her friend. And then, one day, they were gone, just disappeared. Her mother said something about trouble, about them having to leave quickly. She was 9. She forgot about him eventually, the way children forget things that don't fit into their new reality. But he didn't. Forget about her! She set the photo down with trembling hands, and that's when she noticed the other things in the room she'd missed last night. Above the dresser, there was a painting, small, maybe 12 by 16 inches. It was her again, same age, same gap-toothed grin, but this one was painted from memory, she could tell. The details were slightly off, her nose a bit wider than it really was, her eyes a shade darker. Someone had painted this who remembered her, but hadn't seen her in years. Her stomach twisted. She stood up, started looking around the room more carefully, opened the drawers. In the top one, there was a sketchbook. She flipped through it with growing horror. It was full of drawings of her, pages and pages, her as a child in Cape Town, her older, teenager, in what looked like Johannesburg based on the background, her recent, walking down a New York street, sitting in a cafe, laughing with someone she recognized as Jay, her best friend. He'd been watching her, drawing her, for years. The door opened. Thandie spun around, clutching the sketchbook. The woman from last night, housekeeper, she guessed, stood in the doorway with a tray. "Breakfast," she said, then noticed what Thandie was holding. Her expression didn't change. "Mr. Kim will see you in an hour. Eat, dress. Someone will come for you." She set the tray on the small table by the window and left. Thandie looked down at the sketchbook in her hands, then at the breakfast tray, eggs, toast, fresh fruit, coffee that smelled incredible, and then at the closet full of clothes that were exactly her size. And she understood. This wasn't random. Her father's debt wasn't random. That auction wasn't random. This was planned. He'd been planning this for years. Minjun watched the security feed from his office. Thandiswa, her full name, beautiful and complicated like everything about her, was sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the sketchbook. She'd found it. Good. He wanted her to find it. Sungmin stood behind him, arms crossed. "This is insane," he said in Korean. He always spoke Korean when he was trying to make Minjun listen to him. "You paid $2 million for a woman who doesn't remember you. You've been stalking her for 5 years. You fabricated her father's debt. And now you're surprised she looks terrified?" "She's not terrified," Minjun corrected him, still watching the screen. "She's confused. There's a difference." "Minjun, she'll understand," he said, cutting him off. He switched off the monitor. He didn't need to watch her anymore. She was here, finally. After years of searching, years of waiting, years of watching from a distance to make sure she was safe, she was here. "Once I explain, she'll understand." Sungmin looked at him like he was delusional. Maybe he was. "And if she doesn't, she will," Minjun repeated. Because she had to. Because he'd built his entire life around the moment she chose him. They were 8 years old. She was the only person who didn't look at the weird Korean kid who couldn't speak English and decide he wasn't worth knowing. She taught him to play football, shared her lunch when he forgot his, yelled at bigger kids who tried to push him around. She chose him. And then his father's criminal activities got exposed, and they had to flee Cape Town in the middle of the night. No goodbyes, no explanations, just gone. He'd asked his father if they could take her with them. His father laughed, said he was being stupid, that you don't bring complications into this life, that he'd forget her within a week. 23 years later, Minjun still remembered the way she smiled. "I need to prepare," he said, standing. He was wearing one of his more casual suits, still expensive, still perfectly tailored, but less intimidating than the full, formal wear he used for business. He wanted her to see him, not just the power. "You're going to tell her everything?" Sungmin asked. "Not everything, not yet. The surveillance, she'll find out eventually," Minjun said. "When she does, I'll explain. I was protecting her. You were obsessed with her." Minjun turned to look at him. Sungmin had been with him since they were teenagers, since his father decided his son needed a handler to keep him in line. They'd been through everything together. He was the only person Minjun trusted, which was why he could admit to him, "Yes, I was obsessed with her. I still am. But it's more than that. When I saw her again 5 years ago, pure chance, I was in that cafe in Soho and she walked in. I realised she was still surviving, still fighting, Still that same girl who refused to let the world make her small, and she was alone. No one was protecting her, no one was choosing her. So you decided to do it in the most controlling, terrifying way possible. Sungmin said dryly. I did what I had to do, Minjun said. Her father's gambling was real. The debt, I just redirected it. Made sure it came to me instead of someone who would actually hurt her. You bought her at auction. I saved her from being bought by someone worse. Sungmin shook his head. Keep telling yourself that. But when she finds out the full truth, don't say I didn't warn you. He was right, of course. But Minjun couldn't think about that now. Right now, he needed to focus on making her understand, on showing her that this, them being here together, was fate, destiny, the universe correcting the mistake made when they were torn apart. He checked his reflection in the window. Perfect. As always, his father taught him that power was 90% presentation. Send for her, he told Sungmin. It's time. The woman, Thandi still didn't know her name, came to get her exactly 1 hour after breakfast. She'd dressed in jeans and a simple blouse, the most normal clothes she could find in the closet. She'd braided her hair. She'd put on the face she used when she was scared, but needed to pretend she wasn't. The woman led her through the mansion. Thandi tried to memorize the route. Down the hallway, left at the stairs, down 2 flights, through a gallery with paintings that made her art history degree weep. But there were too many turns, too many doors. This place was a maze. They stopped at a heavy wooden door. The woman knocked once, waited. Come in, a voice said. His voice. She opened the door and stepped aside. Thandi walked in, because what choice did she have? The office was exactly what she'd expect. Massive mahogany desk, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, leather chairs, windows overlooking manicured gardens. And sitting behind the desk, looking like he belonged in a magazine spread about powerful men, was Mr. Kim. He stood when she entered. Thandiswa, he said, and hearing her full name in his mouth felt strange. Please, sit. Thandi didn't move. How do you know my name? Sit, he repeated. Please. It was the please that made her move, not because she trusted him, but because there was something in his voice, a carefulness, like he was trying very hard not to scare her more than he already had. She sat in one of the leather chairs across from his desk. He sat back down. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Up close, he was even more striking. Sharp features that could have been carved from stone, dark eyes that missed nothing. He was younger than she'd thought, early 30s probably, and there was something about the way he held himself, perfectly controlled, that made her think of a predator trying to appear harmless. You found the photograph, he said. You wanted me to find it? Yes. Why? He leaned back in his chair, steepled his fingers. Do you remember Cape Town, St. Mary's Primary School? A Korean family that lived next door to you on Elm Street? Thandi swallowed hard. Yes. Do you remember the boy? Minjun? That was you. That was me. He was watching her carefully, gauging her reaction. You were my only friend. The only person who didn't treat me like I was invisible or strange. You taught me English, defended me from bullies, let me exist. We were children, Thandi said. Her voice sounded steadier than she felt. That was almost 20 years ago. 23, he corrected. I've thought about you every day for 23 years. The words hung between them. They should sound romantic, Thandi guessed, devoted, but instead they sounded obsessive, dangerous. My father's debt, she said. Is it real? He didn't hesitate. Yes. And you just happened to be the one he owed money to? No, Minjun said. I made sure I was the one he owed money to. Her blood ran cold. What does that mean? Your father has a gambling problem. He's been borrowing from dangerous people for years. I've been managing his debts, making sure they ended up in my hands instead of theirs. He said it so calmly, like he was describing a business transaction, and not the fact that he'd been manipulating her family for years. 6 months ago, I decided it was time. Time for what? To bring you to me. Thandi stood up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. You fabricated this, the debt, the auction, all of it. I gave you a reason to accept help, he corrected. You never would have taken it otherwise. You're too proud, too stubborn. You would have destroyed yourself trying to fix everyone else's problems. So you decided to destroy me instead. He stood too, and she hated that she had to look up at him, hated the power dynamic it created. I saved you, he said, and there was emotion in his voice now, carefully controlled but present. Do you know what would have happened if someone else had bought you at that auction? Do you know what they would have done to you? Do you know what you're doing to me? Thandi shot back. Her hands were shaking. She balled them into fists. You stole my choice. You bought me like I was property. I brought you home, he interrupted. His voice was quiet, but intense. You were suffering, working 3 jobs, sending every cent to your family, living in poverty, while pretending everything was fine. I watched you struggle for 5 years, Thandiswa. 5 years of wanting to help, but knowing you'd never accept it. So yes, I created a situation where you had to accept it. I'm not apologizing for that. You watched me? The words came out strangled. For 5 years? He realized his mistake. She could see it in his face, the way his jaw tightened. I made sure you were safe. That's not the same thing, isn't it? No, Thandi said. It's not. Safe would be minding your own business. What you did was stalking. I protected you, he insisted. I didn't ask you to. You never would have. His control slipped, just for a moment. His voice rose, and she could hear the frustration underneath. That's the problem. You would have worked yourself to death before admitting you needed help. You would have let your father's debts bury you. You would have sacrificed everything for people who don't deserve you. That's not your decision to make, Thandi said. She was crying now, angry tears that she wiped away furiously. My life is my life. My choices are my choices. You don't get to play God just because you remembered a little girl who was nice to you. He flinched. Good. She wanted him to hurt. I'm leaving, she said. She turned toward the door. No, he said simply. Thandi spun back around. Excuse me, you can't leave. Not yet. The debt is real now, Thandiswa. Your father owes $2 million. Someone has to pay it. So I'm a prisoner. You're a guest, he corrected. Stay 30 days. Let me prove this isn't what you think. If at the end of that time you still want to leave, I'll let you go. I'll clear the debt. I'll give you money to start over anywhere you want. I won't contact you again. And if I refuse, then the debt falls to your father, and the people he actually borrowed from, the ones I've been keeping at bay, will come for him, and for your siblings, since they're his responsibility too. Thandi stared at him. You're blackmailing me. I'm offering you a choice, he said. 30 days for your family's safety. After that, you're free. That's not a choice. That's coercion. It's the only option I'm giving you, he said, and his voice was cold again. All business. What's it going to be? She wanted to scream. She wanted to hit him. She wanted to run out of this office and this mansion and this nightmare. But she thought about Sifo and Naledi, 16 and 19, still in school, still innocent, still believing their big sister had everything under control. She couldn't let them suffer for her father's mistakes. She couldn't when she was 14 and their mother died. She couldn't now. 30 days, Thandi said. Her voice was flat, dead. And then you let me go. 30 days, he agreed. Don't touch me. Don't come near me. I'll stay in this house because I have to, but I'm not. Her voice broke. She forced it steady. I'm not yours. You didn't buy a girlfriend. You bought time. That's all. Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe, or frustration. I don't want to buy you, he said quietly. I want you to choose me, the way you did when we were 8. I was a child, Thandi said. I didn't know any better. Maybe, he said. Or maybe you saw something in me then that you'll see again if you give this a chance. She laughed, bitter and sharp. You want me to fall in love with my kidnapper? That's your plan. I want you to remember who I was before the world made me into this, he said. I want you to see that I'm still that boy who needed a friend, who chose you back. That boy is dead, Thandi said. You killed him when you decided to do this. She walked out before he could respond. The woman who'd brought her there was waiting outside the door. She didn't say anything, just led Thandi back to her room, her prison, her home for the next 30 days. When the door closed behind her, Thandi finally let herself collapse. She slid down to the floor, back against the wall, and sobbed until she couldn't breathe. Mama, she thought. Ingyak solisa. I'm sorry. I don't know how to fix this. But her mother was gone, and Thandi was alone, the way she'd always been alone. If you want to know why a stranger just paid $2 million for a woman he claims to remember, subscribe to hear the twisted truth, because trust me, it gets darker before it gets better. The first week passed in a strange limbo. Thandi stayed in her room mostly, reading the books she found on the shelves, classics, contemporary fiction, even some South African authors, which made her wonder again how he knew, staring out the window at gardens she wasn't allowed to walk in. Meals came 3 times a day, brought by the housekeeper, whose name she finally learned was Mrs. Park. She was kind in a distant sort of way, never asking questions, never offering sympathy. Minjun didn't try to see her. Thandi was grateful for that, and irrationally angry about it too. On the 8th day, she ventured out of her room, not to explore exactly, more like she was going stir-crazy and needed to move, or she'd start screaming. The guards in the hallway nodded at her but didn't stop her. She wandered through the mansion, pretending she had purpose, pretending this was voluntary. The house was excessive in every way. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, art that probably cost more than her entire neighbourhood back home. It was beautiful and empty and cold. She found the kitchen eventually. It was massive, all stainless steel and granite countertops, and there was a chef she hadn't met preparing something that smelled incredible. "Can I help you, miss?" he asked in accented English. French, she thought. "I was just—" Thandi didn't know how to finish that sentence. "I'm homesick. I wanted to see if maybe I could cook something." He looked uncertain. "Mr. Kim hasn't said—" "Please," she interrupted. "I won't mess anything up. I just need to do something with my hands." He studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "What do you need?" That's how Thandi ended up making bunny chow in a Mafia boss's kitchen while a French chef watched with fascination. She used what she could find: curry powder, chicken, vegetables, and hollowed out a bread loaf the way her mother taught her, explaining the process as she went because the chef seemed genuinely curious. "It's South African street food," she told him. "Durban originally, but we made it in Johannesburg too. My mum used to make it every Sunday after church." "It smells amazing," he said. It did. It smelled like home, like Sunday afternoons and her mother's laugh, and a time when her biggest worry was finishing her homework before dinner. She was pulling the bread out of the oven when she sensed someone behind her. She turned. Min Jun stood in the doorway of the kitchen, watching her. He was less formal today, Just slacks and a white button-down, sleeves rolled up to his elbows. It should make him look more approachable. It didn't. "You're cooking," he observed. "I was homesick," Thandi said. Her voice was clipped. "Your chef said I could use the kitchen." "Of course." He stepped closer, and she resisted the urge to step back. She wouldn't give him that. "What are you making?" "Bunny chow." Something flickered in his eyes. "I remember that. Your mother made it once. She gave some to my mother." Thandi didn't want to think about that, about their mothers being friends, about a time when his family was just the weird Korean neighbours and not her captors. "Do you remember," he said carefully, "when we tried to teach each other our languages? You taught me Zulu words, I taught you Korean." "I was 8, Thandi said. "I don't remember much." "Sawubona," he said. "The Zulu greeting. I see you." His pronunciation was terrible, but he was trying. Kayabo, welcome. You taught me those first." Despite herself, something tightened in Thandi's chest. "Your pronunciation is still awful." His lips curved slightly, almost a smile. "You always said that. You'd make me repeat words 10 times until I got them right. And you'd get frustrated and switch to Korean just to annoy me," Thandi said before she could stop herself. "You liked when I spoke Korean," he said. "You said it sounded like singing." She turned back to the food, using it as an excuse to look away. "That was a long time ago." "Yes," he agreed. "It was." They stood there in awkward silence while the bunny chow finished cooking. The chef had made himself scarce, giving them privacy Thandi didn't want. "I'm not going to apologise," Min-jun said finally, "for bringing you here. I know you want me to, but I won't, because I'd do it again." "I know," Thandi said. "That's what makes this so fucked up." "Can I eat with you?" he asked. "The bunny chow. Can we share it?" She should say no, should make him leave, but standing here in this kitchen, smelling food that reminded her of home, talking about childhood memories with the boy who used to be her friend, she was tired of being angry. Just for a moment, she wanted to pretend this was normal. "Fine," Thandi said, "but you're using your hands. That's how you eat it." "I remember," he said softly. They ate at the kitchen island, tearing pieces of bread filled with curry, the way you were supposed to. It was messy and imperfect, and for 5 minutes, Thandi almost forgot that he'd bought her at an auction. Almost. Watching Thandi cook in his kitchen did something to Min-jun he didn't expect. She looked more relaxed than he'd seen her since she arrived. Her hands moved with practiced ease, and she smiled, actually smiled, when she tasted the curry and deemed it good enough. This was what he wanted. Her here, comfortable, making his house feel like a home instead of a mausoleum. Over the next week, she emerged more, still wary, still angry, but less locked in her room. She explored the library, spent hours looking at the art collection. He caught her once standing in front of a Basquiat, tears streaming down her face, and he wanted to ask why, but didn't. Some griefs were private. He gave her space, let her come to him on her terms. Songmin thought he was being too passive, but he didn't understand. Force wouldn't work with Thandi. It never did, even when they were children. You had to let her decide you were worth her time, and then she'd give you everything. Min-jun was patient. He'd waited 23 years. He could wait a little longer. On day 15, he found her in the library, curled up in one of the leather chairs with a book. She didn't look up when he entered, but she didn't tell him to leave either. "I thought you might want this," he said, setting a package on the table beside her. She glanced at it. "What is it?" "A phone. You can call your siblings, your father. Anyone you want." Now she looked up, suspicious. "Why?" "Because I'm not a monster, Thandiswa. I don't want you isolated from your family." She stared at the phone like it might explode. You trust me not to call for help. Would you? He asked genuinely. Would you risk your father's debt falling to people who would actually hurt your family? Her jaw tightened. No. Then, yes, I trust you. She picked up the phone slowly, like it might be a trap. Thank you, she said, and the words sounded like they were being dragged out of her. You're welcome. Minjun left before she could change her mind, before he could do something stupid like stay and watch her face light up when she heard her siblings' voices. Later that night, Sungmin found him in his study with a glass of whiskey, staring at nothing. You're falling for her all over again, he said. I never stopped, Minjun corrected him. This is different. Before, she was a memory, a fantasy. Now she's real, and she's here, and she hates you. She doesn't hate me, Minjun said. Though he wasn't entirely sure that was true. She hates what I did. Is there a difference? He didn't answer, because he didn't know. Thandi called Naledi first. Her little sister answered on the second ring, her voice bright and young, and so achingly familiar that she nearly sobbed. Sawubona, Thandi. I didn't think you'd call today. I got a new phone. Thandi lied smoothly. Lost the old one. How are you? How's school? They talked for 20 minutes. Naledi told her about her classes, about the boy she liked, about mundane, beautiful, normal things. Thandi didn't tell her where she was. She didn't tell her anything real. When they hung up, she sat in her luxurious prison and cried. Minjun didn't have to give her the phone. He could have kept her completely isolated, but he didn't. She hated that it made her soften toward him, even a little. That night, she dreamed about Cape Town, about being 8 years old and invincible, about a skinny Korean boy who followed her around and let her boss him around and looked at her like she hung the moon. She woke up confused and angry at herself. That boy was gone. This man, this criminal who bought her, was not the same person. But sometimes, in moments like the kitchen, like the phone, she caught glimpses. And that was more dangerous than anything else, because part of her wanted to believe he was still in there somewhere. On day 20, Minjun took Thandi to a South African market in Brooklyn. She didn't understand why until they got there and she was surrounded by the sounds of Zulu and Xhosa and Afrikaans, surrounded by the smells of spices and cooking meat and home. You looked like you were disappearing, he said when she stared at him. I thought this might help. He stood back. Let her wander. Let her talk to vendors who reminded her of her aunties back in Soweto. Let her breathe in air that felt like home. She could run. The thought occurred to her when she was deep in the market, and he was several stalls away, watching but not hovering. She could disappear into the crowd, find Jay, ask for help. But then she remembered Sifo and Naledi, remembered the debt, remembered that running would only make things worse for people she loved. So she didn't run. She bought vetkoek from an old woman who reminded her of her grandmother. The smell alone nearly undid her. These fried dough pastries, golden and perfect, were her mother's specialty. She'd make them on special occasions, and they'd eat them hot with butter or jam or curry mince. Thandi took one bite, and the grief hit her like a physical blow. She was crying before she could stop herself, standing in the middle of a Brooklyn market with tears streaming down her face and vendors staring. Minjun was there instantly. He didn't touch her, but he was close. Thandi, he said softly. My mum used to make these, she choked out. Every birthday, every celebration. She'd make dozens, and we'd eat them until we were sick. I remember, he said. She gave some to my mother once. They sat in your backyard, talking in broken English and hand gestures, and ate vetkoek together. She looked at him, really looked at him. You remember that? I remember everything about that year, he said. It was the only time I felt like I belonged somewhere. They stood there in the market, holding fried dough that had gone cold, and something shifted between them. Not forgiveness, not even understanding, but acknowledgement that they both lost something when his family left Cape Town. They both spent years feeling displaced and alone. It didn't excuse what he did, but it explained it a little. On the drive back to the mansion, Thandi caught herself thinking of it as home and hated herself for it. She saw Jay. He was across the street, looking at his phone, and didn't see her, but she saw him. Her best friend since they both moved to New York 5 years ago, the person who knew her better than anyone, except maybe her siblings. She almost called out, almost. But then she remembered she couldn't explain where she'd been, couldn't explain why she disappeared, couldn't drag him into this mess. Who is he? Minjun asked. He'd noticed her staring. No one. Thandi lied. Thandi. Someone who actually cares about me, she said, echoing what she'd told him the first time. Someone who doesn't need to kidnap me to keep me close. Minjun's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. They drove the rest of the way in silence. That night, Thandi called her father. She'd been avoiding it, but she couldn't anymore. Thandi! He sounded drunk. Of course he did. Where are you? Why haven't you called? How much do you owe? She asked directly. No preamble. What? The gambling debt. How much is it really? He was quiet for too long. I don't know what you're... Don't lie to me, she snapped. Ngiak solisa for a lot of things, Baba, but don't make me apologize for calling you out. How much? There's no debt, he finally admitted. Not anymore. Some man paid it off. I don't know who. I don't know why. Her blood ran cold. When? 6 months ago. Said he was an old friend. Said he'd handle everything. Thandi hung up without saying goodbye. So Min Jun was telling the truth about one thing. The debt was real before he bought it. But he'd fabricated it being current. He paid it off and then held it over her head anyway. She was furious, but also exhausted, and strangely relieved because it meant her father wasn't in immediate danger. It meant the threat might have been exaggerated. It meant this whole thing might collapse if she pushed. She found Minjun in his study, stormed in without knocking. My father's debt, she said. It's not real anymore. You paid it off 6 months ago. He looked up from his desk, completely calm. Yes. So this whole thing, the auction, the 30 days, it was all a lie. No, he said. The debt to me is real. I bought your father's obligations, which means he owes me. That's not how this works. That's exactly how this works, he interrupted. His voice was sharp now, dangerous. Your father borrowed money from very bad people. I stepped in. I paid them off. Now he owes me. And I decided his debt could be settled if you gave me 30 days. To do what? Thandi demanded. To convince me to fall for you. To make me forget you literally bought me. To prove I can take care of you, he said, standing. To show you that you don't have to carry everything alone. To give you a chance to rest for once in your goddamn life, Thandiswa. I didn't ask for that. I know! He shouted it, and she flinched. He noticed, and his expression shifted to something like pain. He continued quieter. I know you didn't ask, but I'm giving it to you anyway, because someone needs to. Because you're killing yourself taking care of everyone else, and no one is taking care of you. That's not your job. Maybe not, he said. But I'm making it my job, because that's what you do for people you love. The word hung between them, love. You don't love me, Thandi said. You love a memory, a little girl who was nice to you. I love the woman who works 3 jobs to support her siblings, he said. I love the woman who lies to her family about how well she's doing, because she doesn't want them to worry. I love the woman who stands in a Brooklyn market and cries over fried dough because it reminds her of her mother. That's who I love. That's who I see. She was crying again, She seemed to do that a lot lately. You see what you want to see. So do you, he said softly. You want to see a monster. Because if I'm a monster, you don't have to admit that maybe, just maybe, someone actually cares about you. You bought me, Thandi said. It was her last defense, and they both knew it was weakening. To save you, he said. And yes, for selfish reasons too, because I wanted you here. I wanted a chance. But I meant what I said. After 30 days, if you want to leave, you can. I won't stop you. Promise? I promise, he said. And she almost believed him. She was softening. Minjun could see it in the way she didn't immediately leave rooms when he entered, in the way she let him teach her Korean phrases in exchange for her teaching him more Zulu, in the way she laughed, actually laughed, when he tried to make bunny chow and failed spectacularly. They were in week 3 of 30 days, and he was starting to believe this might actually work. Sungmin warned him not to get cocky. She's still here because she has to be, not because she wants to be, he reminded Minjun. But Minjun knew Thandi. He remembered her, and he could see in her eyes that she was starting to see him too. Not just the man who bought her, the boy who needed her. On day 25, his aunt visited. Mrs. Kim was his father's older sister, traditional and formidable and utterly terrifying. She raised him after his mother died, at least until he was old enough for his father to take over his education in the family business. I hear you've brought a woman to the house, she said in Korean over tea. She hadn't asked to meet Thandi yet. This was a reconnaissance mission. Yes, Minjun said simply. Is she Korean? South African? His aunt's expression didn't change, but he felt her disapproval like a physical weight. Your father would not approve. My father is dead. His legacy is not. You are Kim Dae-sung's son. You have responsibilities to the family, to our community, bringing an outsider into this house. Auntie, Minjun interrupted carefully. I respect you, but this is not up for discussion. She's temporary then. No, he said. She's not. His aunt studied him with sharp eyes. You care for her. I love her. Love, she said like it was a weakness, which, in his father's world, it was. Love makes you vulnerable. Your father taught you that. My father was wrong about a lot of things. His aunt set down her teacup with deliberate precision. I will meet her tonight. Dinner. Formal. It wasn't a request. Minjun arranged dinner with dread. Thandi didn't know what she was walking into. His aunt was a master at subtle warfare, at making people feel small with perfect politeness. When he told Thandi about the dinner, she looked at him suspiciously. Your aunt? She wants to meet you. Why? Because you're living in my house, and she's traditional. It's important to her. Thandi crossed her arms. Is this a test to see if I'm good enough for the great Kim family? It's complicated, he admitted. Everything with you is complicated, she said. But she agreed to the dinner. That evening, Minjun watched her dress in one of the elegant dresses from her closet, deep emerald green that made her skin glow, and he wanted to tell her she was beautiful. Wanted to tell her she didn't need to prove anything to his aunt. But he didn't, because they were still dancing around what this was, still pretending they were captor and captive and nothing more. Dinner with Minjun's aunt was exactly as awkward as Thandi feared. Mrs. Kim was elegant and cold, dressed in a beautiful hanbok, her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun. She sat at the head of the table like a queen, and Thandi was being presented to her like a... She didn't know what. Sungmin was there too, acting as buffer, and she was grateful for his presence, even though she knew he was loyal to Minjun above all else. The meal was Korean, various dishes she didn't recognize, eaten with chopsticks she wasn't entirely comfortable with. She managed, but she could feel Mrs. Kim's eyes on her, judging every movement. "So," Mrs. Kim said in perfect English, "you are from South Africa?" "Yes, ma'am. And you work as an art curator, I'm told." "Assistant curator," Thandi corrected, "at a small gallery in Soho." It was a sound that conveyed volumes of judgment. "And you are living here now?" "Temporarily," Thandi said, because she needed to believe that was true. "My nephew tells me you were childhood friends in Cape Town." "We were neighbours for a few years. I wouldn't say friends exactly. We were friends." Minjun interrupted gently. "She taught me English, defended me from bullies. She was the kindest person I'd ever met." Mrs. Kim looked between them, and Thandi could see her calculating. "And now, 20 years later, you find yourselves together again. How convenient." The implication was clear. She thought Thandi was after his money, taking advantage of his sentimentality. "It's not convenient," Thandi said, her voice steady. "It's complicated, but I'm not here by choice, Mrs. Kim. Your nephew made sure of that." Minjun tensed. Sung-min looked like he wanted to disappear. But Mrs. Kim's expression didn't change. "You speak directly," she observed. "I appreciate that. Too many people waste time with politeness when truth would serve better. My mother taught me to say what I mean," Thandi told her. "Your mother is dead since I was 14. Something flickered in Mrs. Kim's eyes, a sympathy, maybe. "I am sorry for your loss. My own sister died young. It is difficult to lose a mother." They ate in silence for a moment. Then Mrs. Kim asked, "What do you offer my nephew?" Thandi blinked. "Excuse me? What do you bring to this relationship? You are not Korean. You do not understand our culture or our ways. You are not from our world. So what is it about you that makes my nephew risk everything?" "Auntie," Minjun said sharply, but Thandi held up her hand. "No, it's a fair question." She looked at Mrs. Kim directly. "I don't offer him anything except myself. I'm not wealthy. I'm not connected. I don't understand half of what goes on in this world he lives in. But I knew him when he was just a lonely boy who needed a friend. And maybe that's what he needs now too. Someone who sees him, not his power or his money. Just him. And do you see him?" Mrs. Kim asked. Thandi looked at Minjun. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Hopeful. Vulnerable. "I'm starting to," she admitted. Mrs. Kim nodded slowly. "That is more honest than I expected. Most women would have lied, told me they loved him desperately. You, at least, acknowledge the truth. This situation is not ideal." "That's an understatement," Thandi muttered. To her surprise, Mrs. Kim's lips twitched, almost a smile. "I do not approve of this," she said, "but I do not disapprove either. Not yet. Earn your place, if you wish to stay. Show me you are worthy of my nephew's regard." It wasn't acceptance, but it wasn't outright rejection either. After dinner, as Mrs. Kim was preparing to leave, she pulled Thandi aside. "My nephew has not been happy in a very long time," she said quietly. "Since his mother died, he has been cold, controlled. His father made him into a weapon. But tonight, I saw him smile. I saw him human." She looked at Thandi. "Whatever you are doing, it is working. Do not break him." "I'm not trying to fix him," Thandi said. "Good," Mrs. Kim said. "Broken things that are forced back together shatter more easily. Better to let them heal naturally." She left, and Thandi was left standing in the foyer wondering what just happened. Minjun found her there. "I'm sorry," he said. "She can be—" "She's fierce," Thandi interrupted. "I like her." He blinked. "You do? She cares about you, in her own terrifying way." "She's not wrong, you know," Minjun said. "What she said about me being cold. I've spent years building walls, keeping people out, because everyone I've ever cared about either left or died. Is that why you're so desperate to keep me? Thandi asked. Because you think I'll leave too? No, he said. I'm desperate to keep you because for 1 year when I was 8 years old, I knew what it felt like to be seen, to matter to someone, and I've spent 23 years trying to find that again. That's a lot of pressure to put on one person, Thandi said softly. I know, he admitted, but I can't seem to help it. They stood there in the foyer, close but not touching, and she realised something terrifying. She was starting to care about him. Not the kidnapper, not the Mafia boss, but the broken boy underneath who never learned how to ask for love without trying to control it. That didn't make what he did okay, but it made it understandable, and that was more dangerous than anything else. On day 28, Thandi found Minjun in a part of the mansion she hadn't explored yet. It was a shrine room, small, private, with an altar set up with photographs and offerings. He was kneeling in front of it, and she realised what she was watching. Yeza, the ancestral memorial ceremony. She should leave. This was private, sacred. But she was frozen in the doorway, watching him bow deeply, listening to him murmur prayers in Korean she didn't understand. And then his voice broke. He was crying, silent tears streaming down his face as he stayed bowed before the altar. She'd never seen him cry, never seen him anything but controlled and composed. It undid something in her. She stepped into the room quietly. He sensed her, but didn't look up. Eomeoni, Josonghamnida, he whispered. Mother, I'm sorry. Thandi didn't speak Korean well enough to understand everything, but she understood grief. She understood the weight of carrying guilt for people who were gone. She sat down beside him, not touching, just present. They sat in silence for what felt like hours. Finally, he spoke. It's the anniversary of her death, he said. My mother, cancer. She was the only person who ever loved me without conditions. I'm sorry, Thandi whispered. After she died, my father became different, colder. He said love was a weakness, that caring about people was how you got hurt. He trained me to be strong, to never show emotion, to control everything around me so I could never be vulnerable again. Is that what I am? She asked. Something you're trying to control. At first, yes, he admitted, but somewhere along the way, it stopped being about control and started being about hope. Hope that maybe I didn't have to be alone anymore, that maybe I could be human again. Thandi looked at the altar. The photograph showed a kind-faced Korean woman with a gentle smile. She looks nice, she said. She was, Minjun said. She would have loved you. You're like her, kind, stubborn, strong. You said that before, because it's true. They sat there a while longer. Then Thandi did something she didn't expect. She leaned her head on his shoulder. He froze, didn't breathe. I'm not saying I forgive you, she whispered, but I see you. The you underneath all this, the boy who needed a friend. I see you. His hand found hers, their fingers interlaced. Thank you. He breathed. Later that night, Thandi found him on the balcony. It was raining, but he was standing in it anyway, letting himself get soaked. She joined him. You're going to catch a cold. I don't care. They stood in the rain together, and she realised they were at a turning point. Tomorrow was day 29. One more day until she was supposed to decide whether to stay or go. The 30 days are almost up, she said. I know. You promised you'd let me go. I did. Will you? She asked. Really? He turned to look at her. Water streamed down his face. Rain or tears, she couldn't tell. If you want to leave, I'll take you anywhere. I'll give you money. I'll make sure you're safe, and I'll disappear from your life. But But I'm asking you not to, he said. His voice was raw, vulnerable. I know I did this wrong. I know I hurt you. I know you should run as far from me as possible. But I'm asking you to stay, not because you owe me, not because you're afraid, but because you want to. Why would I want to? She asked. You kidnapped me. You manipulated my life. You stalked me for years. I know, he said, and I was wrong. I'm sorry, Ngiaksolisa. I'm sorry in your language and mine and every language I can think of. I was so focused on bringing you to me that I forgot you needed to choose. I forgot that love isn't about possession. It's about trust. So what are you saying? I'm saying I love you, he said simply, not the memory of you, not the idea of you, Thandiswa Dlamini, the woman who works herself to death for her family, the woman who cries over vetkoek and makes bunny chow in my kitchen and looks at art like it's oxygen, the woman who sits with me when I'm breaking down even though I don't deserve it. I love you, and if you leave, I'll let you go, because that's what you do when you love someone. You give them freedom, even if it destroys you. Thandi was crying. In the rain, so it didn't matter, but she was crying. This is insane. All of this. We shouldn't work. I know. You're a criminal. I don't even know what I am anymore. You're the woman I've loved since I was 8 years old, he said. That's who you are. I'm not ready to leave yet, she whispered. His eyes closed, relief so profound it was painful. What? I'm not ready, she repeated. I should be. I should run as far from you as possible. But when I think about leaving, about never seeing you again, Her voice broke. I can't. Thendi. She kissed him. She kissed him before she could change her mind, before she could think about all the reasons this was a terrible idea. She kissed him standing in the rain on his balcony, and he kissed her back like she was air and he'd been drowning. His hands came up to cup her face, gentle, reverent, like she was something precious. Come inside, he whispered against her lips. Please. She let him lead her inside, let him close the balcony door, let him look at her with a question in his eyes that she answered by kissing him again. They ended up in his bedroom, not hers, his. It felt significant somehow. She was choosing to enter his space. He pulled back, looked at her seriously. Are you sure? We don't have to. I'm sure, she said. For tonight, I'm sure. He made love to her like he'd been waiting his whole life for this, slow and careful and so tender it made her cry. He asked permission for everything. Can I touch you here? Is this okay? Tell me what you want. And she realized he was giving her back what he took. Choice, control, agency. His hands moved over her body with reverence, like she was something sacred. He kissed every scar, every stretch mark, every part of her she'd learned to hide, and when she gasped his name, he held her like she was the only thing keeping him tethered to earth. Afterward, they lay tangled together in his bed, and she traced the scar on his shoulder. What's this from? My father, he said simply, teaching me to fight. He wasn't gentle about it. She kissed the scar. He closed his eyes. She showed him the stretch marks on her hips. From when my mother died, I lost weight so fast my skin couldn't keep up. He traced them with his fingers. You're beautiful, he whispered, every part of you. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, two broken people trying to figure out how to be whole together. Minjun woke up to find her still there. For a moment, he was terrified it was a dream. But no, Thandi was curled against his chest, breathing softly, real and warm, and his. Not his like he owned her, his like she chose him. Finally. He didn't move, didn't want to risk waking her and breaking whatever spell let this happen. The 30 days were up today. He promised he'd let her go, but she said she wasn't ready to leave. It wasn't the same as saying she wanted to stay, but it was something. He'd take it. He was watching her sleep, memorizing every detail, when his phone buzzed. Seung Min. He slipped out of bed carefully, pulled on clothes, and stepped into the hallway to answer. "We have a problem," Seung Min said without preamble. His blood ran cold. "What kind of problem?" "Volkov. He's been asking questions. About you, about the woman you brought to the house." Alexander Volkov, Russian mob, controlled territory adjacent to his. They'd had an uneasy truce for years, but he was always looking for leverage. "How much does he know?" Minjun asked. "Enough. His people saw you at the market in Brooklyn. With her, they've been asking around. They know she's important to you." "Fuck," he breathed. "If he thinks she's leverage—" "I know," Minjun interrupted. "Increase security. I don't want her leaving the house without a full team. Minjun, if Volkov decides to move against you, she's going to be his target." "I know," he repeated. "I'll handle it." But as he hung up, he realized he didn't know how to handle it, because Seungmin was right. Thandi was his weakness. She was the one thing in this world that could bring him to his knees, and if Volkov figured that out, she was in danger. He'd spent years building walls to protect himself, and in 30 days, Thandi had demolished them all. He looked back at his bedroom door, knowing she was on the other side, and he made a decision. He'd do whatever it took to keep her safe, even if it meant letting her go for real, even if it destroyed him. When Thandi woke up, Min Jun was gone. There was a note on his pillow. Had to handle something. "Breakfast will be brought up. Stay in the house today. Please." The please was what worried her. She showered, dressed, and when Mrs. Park brought breakfast, she asked her what was going on. "Security concern," she said vaguely. "Mr. Kim wants you to stay inside today." "What kind of security concern?" "I'm not at liberty to say, miss." Thandi spent the day restless, pacing her room, then the library, then the gallery. The guards followed her everywhere now, not just in the hallway, actually following her. It was suffocating. By evening, she was furious. She found Min Jun in his study. "What's going on?" she demanded. He looked up from papers he'd been reviewing. His expression was closed off, back to the cold businessman she first met. "Nothing you need to worry about." "That's bullshit. You've got guards following me everywhere. You asked me to stay inside. Something's wrong." "It's just a precaution." "Don't lie to me," she interrupted. "Not after last night. Don't go back to keeping me in the dark." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "There's a rival organisation. They may have noticed you. They may try to use you to get to me. So I'm in danger because of you." "Yes," he said simply. She should be terrified. She was terrified. But she was also angry. "This is what I was trying to avoid. This is exactly what I knew would happen if I got involved with you." "I know," he said, "and I'm handling it." "How? That's not your concern." "It is, if I'm the target." Her voice rose. "You don't get to protect me by keeping me ignorant. That's just another kind of control." He stood, moved around the desk toward her. "Thandi, please, trust me, I'll fix this." "How?" she repeated. "However I have to," he said, and there was something dark in his voice, something that reminded her he wasn't just the lonely boy she remembered. He was a man who ran a criminal empire, a man capable of violence. "I don't want you to kill anyone for me," she whispered. "Then what do you want me to do? Let them come after you? Let them use you to destroy everything I've built? I want you to let me make my own choices," she said. "I want you to tell me the truth and let me decide what risks I'm willing to take. Even if the risk is your life, even then." They stared at each other. The space between them felt like a chasm. "I can't lose you," he said finally. I just found you. I can't lose you. You can't keep me either, she told him. Not like this. Not by making decisions for me and keeping me in the dark and treating me like I'm too fragile to handle reality. You're not fragile, he said. You're the strongest person I know. That's not the point. Then what is the point? The point is, I love you, he said. And love makes me weak. It makes me vulnerable. It makes me terrified every second that something will happen to you. Welcome to being human, she said softly. That's what love is. It's scary. It's risky. It's choosing someone even when you could lose them. I'm not good at that, he admitted. I know, but you're going to have to learn. Because I'm not going to be locked in a cage, even a gilded one. If I stay, and that's still an if, it's going to be on my terms. Not as your prisoner, not as your protected secret, as your partner. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, there was something raw there. What if I can't do it? What if I can't stop trying to control everything? Then I leave, she said simply, because I've spent my whole life being controlled by other people's choices, my father's addiction, my mother's death, poverty, circumstance. I'm not going to choose a relationship where I'm controlled too. I'd rather be alone. You mean that? I do. He nodded slowly. Okay. Okay. Okay, we do this your way. I tell you the truth. I let you make your own choices, even when they terrify me. I trust you to be as strong as I know you are. And you stop making decisions about my safety without consulting me. That's going to be harder, he admitted. Try. I will. He reached for her hand. She let him take it. Thandi, I'm sorry. For all of it. For the auction, for the manipulation, for every time I've tried to control you instead of trusting you. I'm sorry. I know, she said. But sorry doesn't fix everything. What would fix it? Time, she told him. And proof. Show me you can change. Show me you can love me without trying to possess me. I'll try, he promised. They stood there holding hands, and she realized something. She did love him. Somehow, despite everything, she'd fallen for the broken boy and the complicated man. But love wasn't enough if he couldn't learn to let her be free. Tell me about the rival, she said. Tell me what the actual threat is. So he did. He told her about Volkov, about territory disputes, about the delicate balance of power in the criminal underworld. He told her that Volkov had been looking for leverage against him for years, and that she might be that leverage. What would he do, she asked, if he got to me? Use you to force my hand, make me give up territory, maybe kill you to prove a point. She should be terrified. She was. But she was also practical. So what's the plan? Keep you safe. Eliminate the threat. Eliminate how? He hesitated. Thandi, how? There are options, he said carefully. Negotiation, strategic alliances, cutting off his resources until he's forced to back down. Or, he trailed off, or killing him, she finished. Yes. Thandi took a breath. I don't want you to become a monster for me, but I also don't want to be naive. This is your world. I'm choosing to be part of it, at least for now. So I need to accept that sometimes violence is how things are solved. You don't have to accept it. Yes, I do, she interrupted. If I'm going to be with you, I need to understand who you are, all of you. Not just the boy who needed a friend, but the man who runs an empire. I need to see the whole picture, even if it's ugly, especially if it's ugly. He pulled her close, and she let him hold her. You're remarkable, he whispered into her hair. Do you know that? I'm terrified, she admitted. But I'm not running. Not yet. Not yet, he echoed, and somehow that felt like enough. 3 days later, Thandi was at a cafe in Brooklyn meeting Jay. Minjun had approved it after she told him she needed to see her friend, needed some normalcy. He sent guards, discreet ones, but she knew they were there. Jay looked at her like he hadn't seen her in years. "Where the hell have you been?" "It's complicated," she said. "That's not an answer." She sipped her coffee, trying to figure out what to tell him. How do you explain being bought at an auction by your childhood friend turned criminal? "My father got into trouble. I've been handling it." "For a month?" "Thandi, I've been worried sick. You disappeared. You wouldn't return my calls." "I lost my phone," she lied. "Got a new one." He didn't believe her. She could see it in his eyes. But he didn't push. "Are you okay? Really?" "I don't know," she admitted, "but I'm handling it." "If you're in trouble, I'm not. Or I am. But I'm okay, Jay. I promise." They talked about normal things for a while. His job, her gallery. She lied and said she'd been on extended leave. The weather. It felt surreal. Like she was play-acting at being normal when her life had become anything but. They were laughing about something. She didn't even remember what, when the black SUVs pulled up. Men got out. Not Minjun's men. Different ones. "Thandi Dlamini," one of them said. And before she could react, before Jay could do more than start to stand, they grabbed her. Jay fought. She saw him throw a punch, saw one of the men hit him back, saw him go down. She was screaming, struggling, but there were too many of them and they were too strong. Chloroform over her mouth. The world went fuzzy. The last thing she heard was Jay shouting her name. Then nothing. Minjun was in a meeting with Sungmin when his phone rang. Thandi's guards. They never called unless... "She's been taken," the guard said. "I'm sorry, sir. We were across the street. By the time we reached her..." He was moving before the guard finished the sentence. Sungmin was right behind him. "Volkov?" Sungmin asked. "Has to be. Minjun, if he has her..." "I know." His voice was cold, dead, because he couldn't feel right now. If he felt, he'd fall apart. "Gather everyone. Full tactical team. I want every piece of intel we have on Volkov's operations, every location he might take her, every person we can squeeze for information. And I want it now." "We'll get her back," Sungmin said. "We better," Minjun told him. "Because if we don't, if anything happens to her, I'm burning his entire organization to the ground. Every person, every asset, everything. That will start a war." "I don't care." They worked fast. Within 2 hours, they had a location. A warehouse in Queens that Volkov used for interrogations. Minjun's team was ready, armed, prepared for anything. "If she's hurt..." He couldn't finish the sentence. "She's strong," Sungmin said. "She'll survive." Minjun didn't respond, because he wasn't sure he'd survive if she didn't. Thandi woke up, tied to a chair in a warehouse that smelled like oil and rust. Her head was pounding, her wrists hurt where the ropes dug in. A man sat across from her. Volkov, she guessed. Grey hair, cold eyes, expensive suit. "Miss Dlamini," he said with a heavy Russian accent. "Welcome. I apologize for the rough handling, but Kim Min-jun is a difficult man to negotiate with. Perhaps you can help with that." "I don't know what you're talking about," she said. Her voice was steadier than she felt. "Don't insult my intelligence," Volkov said. "You are living in his house. He was seen with you publicly. You are important to him, which makes you valuable to me." "I'm nobody. You're lying." He stood, walked closer. "I'm going to ask you some questions. If you answer truthfully, this will be easier for you. If you lie, well..." He shrugged. "I have methods of encouragement." "I don't know anything about his business," she said, which was mostly true. "Then let's start simple. Where are his safe houses?" "I don't know." Where does he keep his money? I don't know. Volkov sighed. He nodded to one of his men. The man hit her hard. Her head snapped to the side, blood filling her mouth. Let's try this again, Volkov said. They asked her questions for what felt like hours. She didn't know the answers to most of them. The ones she did know, she lied about. They hit her, threatened her, showed her video footage of her siblings in Johannesburg walking home from school. One phone call, Volkov said, and they're dead. All I have to do is give the word, unless you cooperate. Leave them alone, she choked out. They have nothing to do with this. Then help me. Tell me where Kim keeps his operations data, his client lists, something useful. She thought about Min Jun, about the fact that despite everything, she loved him. She thought about how he was trying to change, trying to be better. She thought about how she wasn't going to be the reason his empire fell. I don't know, she said again. Volkov looked genuinely frustrated. You're loyal. I can respect that. But loyalty to a man like Kim Min-jun is misplaced. He's a monster. He bought you at an auction. He keeps you prisoner. Why protect him? Because he's mine, she said. The words surprised her, but they were true. And I'm his. Not because he bought me, because I chose him, and I'm not giving you anything. Volkov pulled out a gun, pointed it at her casually. Last chance. She met his eyes. No. He pulled the trigger. The bullet grazed her side. She screamed, more from shock than pain, though the pain came fast enough. Blood soaked through her shirt. Next time. I don't miss, Volkov said. Call Kim, tell him to come here, or I'll put the next bullet in your head. They gave her a phone. She dialed Min-jun's number with shaking hands. He answered on the first ring. Thandi. Don't come, she said. Her voice was weak. It's a trap. They'll kill you. Just protect my family. Please. Where are you? His voice was steel. Thandi, where are you? I'm sorry, she whispered. For everything. Tell Jay I'm sorry. Tell my siblings. Volkov took the phone. Kim, you have 1 hour. Come alone, or she dies. He hung up. Thandi slumped in the chair, exhausted, bleeding, terrified, but also strangely proud, because she didn't break. She didn't give them what they wanted. She chose Min-jun, really chose him. And now she might die for that choice, but at least it was hers. It's a trap, Sung-min said. I don't care, Min-jun told him. He was strapping on Kevlar, checking weapons, moving with the cold efficiency his father trained into him. She's there. I'm getting her back. If you go in alone, I'm not going alone. I'm going in first. You follow with the team. We hit them hard and fast. No mercy. Min-jun, she protected me, he said. He'd heard it in her voice on that call. She refused to give them information. She told him not to come, to save himself. She chose him even when it might cost her everything. He wasn't losing her. They moved fast. The warehouse was exactly where their intel said it would be. Min-jun went in through the front, hands up, unarmed visibly, though he had 2 guns hidden on him. Volkov, he called out. I'm here. Let her go. Volkov appeared from the shadows, Thandi in front of him, gun to her head. She was bleeding, bruised, barely standing. Rage flooded through Min-jun. Cold, controlled rage. Kim, Volkov said, so good of you to join us. Let her go. This is between us. No, she's leverage. You'll give me what I want, or she dies. Min-jun looked at Thandi. Her eyes met his. She shook her head slightly. Don't do it. But he would. He'd give Volkov everything if it meant she survived. What do you want? He asked. Your territory, your operations, everything. Fine. Min-jun, no, Thandi gasped. Fine, he repeated. You can have it all. Just let her go. Volkov laughed. You expect me to believe you'd give up everything for one woman? Yes, Minjun said simply, because she's not one woman, she's everything. And that's when Sungmin and the team breached. It happened fast. Gunfire, chaos. Minjun was moving toward Thandi, taking down anyone in his way. Volkov tried to use her as a shield, but she was dead weight in his arms, barely conscious. Minjun killed the man holding her, clean shot. He dropped. He caught Thandi before she hit the ground. "I've got you," he told her. "I've got you." "You came," she whispered. "Of course I came. I didn't tell them anything." I know, and you're so stupid and so brave, and I love you so much." He was carrying her toward the exit, Sungmin covering them. Behind them, his team was finishing the job. Efficient, brutal. They got her to a car. A doctor met them at a safe house. The bullet had just grazed her. The bruises would heal. She was alive. She was alive. Minjun sat beside her bed while the doctor worked, holding her hand, and he realized something. He almost lost her because of his world, because loving him put a target on her back, and he had to be willing to let her go. For real this time, even if it killed him. Thandi woke up in an unfamiliar room, not Minjun's mansion, somewhere else, smaller, safer, feeling. He was sitting beside the bed, and he looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Hey," she croaked. "Hey," he said. His voice was rough. "How do you feel?" "Like I got shot and beaten up by Russian mobsters." "You did." "Is Jay okay?" "He's fine. Concussion, but fine." She nodded. Then, "I didn't tell them anything. I know you heard the call, but I need you to know. I protected you." "I know." He took her hand. "You shouldn't have had to. This is my fault." "It's not." "It is," he interrupted. "My world did this to you, loving me did this to you, and I can't. I won't put you through that again." Something cold settled in her stomach. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you were right. You should leave. Go back to Johannesburg, or stay in New York, but far away from me. I'll make sure you're protected. I'll make sure your family is taken care of, but you need to go." "No," she said. He blinked. "What?" "No, I'm not leaving." "Thandi!" "Listen to me," she interrupted. "What happened was terrifying. I don't want to go through that again, but I'm not leaving you. You could have died. I didn't. Next time, there won't be a next time," she said, "because we're going to be smarter, we're going to be prepared, and we're going to face it together." "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," she said. "You're scared. You almost lost me, and it terrified you, and now you want to push me away to protect me. But here's the thing, Minjun, I love you too, and I'm not going anywhere." He stared at her. "You love me?" "Unfortunately, yes. Despite your terrible kidnapping skills, and your control issues, and your dangerous career choices, I love you. So you're stuck with me." "I'm trying to do the right thing," he said. "The right thing is letting me choose. And I choose you. I choose us. I choose this messy, complicated, dangerous thing we're building. I can't promise you'll always be safe. I don't need that promise. I just need you to promise you'll try, that you'll keep changing, keep growing, keep learning how to love me without controlling me." "I can promise that," he said. She pulled him close, and he kissed her like she was a miracle he didn't deserve. "We're going to have to set some ground rules," she told him, "about safety, about communication, about me having a life outside of you. Whatever you want. And you're going to have to meet my siblings eventually. They're going to hate you at first, but they'll come around. I can handle that. And I want to start therapy, both of us, together and separately. Done." She looked at him. "You really mean that? You're willing to do all of that?" "For you," he said. "I'd do anything. Then we're going to be okay," she told him. It's going to be hard and messy and sometimes terrifying, but we're going to be okay. He held her, careful of her injuries, and she let herself believe it. 6 weeks later, Thandi was sitting in Dr. Chen's office with Min-jun for their weekly session. They'd made progress. He was learning to communicate instead of making decisions for her. She was learning that accepting help wasn't weakness. It wasn't perfect. He still struggled with his control issues. She still struggled with her independence, but they were trying. "How are you feeling about the gallery?" Dr. Chen asked her. "Good," Thandi said. Min-jun had funded a new gallery space for her own place, her own rules. She was resistant at first, but he framed it as an investment, not a gift, and she was running it completely independently. "The opening is next month. And the exhibition?" Dr. Chen prompted. Min-jun shifted uncomfortably. They'd been arguing about this for weeks. "It's settled," Thandi said firmly. "We're doing it." "Thandi," Min-jun started. "No, we agreed. It's part of our story. We don't hide from it." The exhibition was Min-jun's paintings of her. All of them, from childhood memories to more recent work. They were displaying them publicly, recontextualizing them from obsession to love story. It was controversial, it was uncomfortable, but it was honest. "I think it's a good idea," Dr. Chen said. "Owning your narrative, showing growth." "Thank you," Shandi said. Min-jun squeezed her hand. "If you're sure." "I'm sure." The gallery opening was everything Thandi hoped it would be. Her siblings were there. Sifo and Naledi flew in from Johannesburg, and seeing them in person for the first time in over a year nearly broke her. They were wary of Min-jun at first, but when Naledi saw how he looked at her, she whispered, "He's in love with you." "I know," Thandi whispered back. "Is he good to you?" "He's trying to be. And that's enough." Her father was there too, sober for once, awkward and guilty, but trying. Min-jun and Thandi had agreed. He wasn't forgiven, but he wasn't cut off either. He was in recovery. He was working on himself. And she was learning that people could change if they wanted to badly enough. Jay was there, protective and suspicious, until Min-jun apologized formally for everything. "I should have protected her better," Min-jun said. "From everyone, including myself." Jay looked at Thandi. She nodded. He accepted it. Mrs. Kim was there, speaking Korean with Thandi. She'd been learning, getting better. Mrs. Kim had brought Min-jun's entire extended family, cousins, aunts, uncles. It was overwhelming and beautiful, and Sung-min was there with a date, a woman he looked at with something like hope. The paintings were displayed with a placard explaining Obsession and Choice, a love story in 3 acts. These paintings span 10 years, from memory to reality, from control to freedom, from obsession to love. They represent a journey 2 people took from childhood friendship to adult complexity, to choosing each other freely. Thandi and Min-jun danced while people viewed the paintings. He held her carefully, like she was precious, and she let herself be held. "Are you happy?" he asked. "Getting there," she said. "Are you?" "For the first time in 23 years, yes." They stood in front of the first painting, both of them at 8, her gap-toothed and grinning, him serious and following. The original caption read, "The Beginning." Thandi had added to it in her own handwriting, "How it began, how we chose it, no regrets." Min-jun asked. She thought about everything, the auction, the manipulation, the fear, the danger, the growth, the love. "Lots of regrets," she admitted, "but not about choosing you, not about us." He kissed her forehead. "Gyakutanda," he said in careful Zulu. "I love you." "Saranghae," she responded in Korean. "I love you too." Around them, people celebrated, art and culture and love all mixed together. South African food and Korean food side by side, her family and his family learning to coexist. It was messy, it was imperfect, it was everything she never knew she wanted. And when Minjun asked her quietly, "Will you marry me?" No pressure. You can say no. I'll ask again in a year if you want. She laughed. Yes, but we're having 2 ceremonies, one in Johannesburg, one here, and I'm keeping my name. Deal, he said immediately. And you're meeting my grandmother before the wedding. She's going to terrify you. I can handle it. And therapy continues. Forever. Non-negotiable. Whatever you want. She looked at him. You really mean that? I really do. They sealed it with a kiss, while around them, 2 worlds collided and somehow created something new. Something that was theirs. Something they chose. If this story reminded you that real love means choice, not control, subscribe for more stories about fighting for love on your own terms. And tell us, would you choose to stay or choose to leave? Let us know in the comments.